Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the start of a catch-up reading vlog. I went a little off the rails at the end of January and I'm currently in the middle of 4 books, which is one more than I am usually comfortable with reading, and only a problem because I have 3 very specific vlogs that I need to start filming, and I can't start reading those books until I have finished these ones. That is the goal for this vlog. We're gonna finish some books. I'm currently 66% of the way through The September House by Carissa Orlando. I'm this far through Rosemary and Rue by Seanan McGuire. I'm 56% of the way through my reread of Harrow the Ninth. And I'm on chapter 2 of Dolls of Our Lives, which is my current nonfiction book. I am trying very hard to always have a nonfiction book going this year. That's where we're at. That's what we're doing. That's the theme of this vlog. I do have a busy day today. I have work this morning, and then it's grocery shopping day, and then I go back and I teach again in the afternoon, and then we have our last night of swim lessons. So Thursdays are typically not my big reading day, but I'm going to try to read in the margins as much as I can. I do also have the audiobook for every single one of these, so that is a resource that I can utilize. And then tomorrow is my day off. So tomorrow is where I'm really gonna try and get a lot of my reading done. The exception to this is Harrow. If I don't finish Harrow in this vlog, it's not as critical because I am reading this along with the Lock Tomb podcast. So I'm listening to the episode, that, and then reading the chapters that are discussed in that episode. So I have just caught up to the last episode I listened to, and so I have to listen to another episode before I can keep reading, and those episodes are about an hour. So it does slow down my reading, which is why this isn't as much of a priority. I can read this in the background as a secondary read, but I do still want to make progress on it. And obviously these ones are my highest priorities. The September House being the highest because this ebook is due back in 3 days. So I really need to get on it. I think for today, I'm going to focus on trying to finish The September House. I think this is gonna be the audiobook I listen to while I am grocery shopping, just because it's a good background. I'm not loving September House as much as I thought I would be. It's horror, and I had heard it described as campy horror. I don't know if it's campy horror or maybe if I just have or had an incorrect assumption of what campy horror meant. I thought campy horror would be like fun, and this is not fun. We are in the perspective of Margaret, who is, it doesn't say what age she is, but she and her husband are empty nesters. Their daughter has, moved out, gone to college, is now like an adult. So I don't know, maybe in her 50s, probably in her 50s. And Margaret and her husband Hal have moved into this beautiful Victorian house. It's the house of their dreams. They're so excited. And then they discovered that every September things start to go awry in the house. So the walls bleed, like literally bleed. All these ghosts begin to appear and cause trouble in the house. The birds start purposefully crashing into the windows and dying, so there's all these bird corpses to pick up. So you're in Margaret's POV, and you're basically kind of a split timeline where you're in the present day, where her husband Hal had gone missing a month prior, and her daughter is finally hip to the fact that he is missing and has come to the house to try to figure out what happened to him. The only problem is that it is September, and Margaret doesn't want her daughter catching on to the fact that the house is haunted. And then the other timeline we're following is basically getting the backstory to Margaret and Hal's relationship and their experiences in the house with past Septembers, basically getting back up to what led Hal to leave. So a lot of the ghosts are children and have been murdered in really, really gruesome, cruel ways. And so I find this stuff with the kids really unsettling. And which yeah, is the point. I know, it's the point. And I also find Margaret's daughter Catherine absolutely insufferable. Like, if my children treated me the way Catherine treats Margaret, no, I hate it. I hate it. So it's not fun. It's not fun. I don't know if I agree with the camp. I think the camp description comes from how Margaret talks about the things that go in the house, as in she's not as upset about it as everybody around her thinks it should be. But as you get into the book, and I won't say what is going on because it's definitely a spoiler, but as you get into the book and are learning more about Margaret, you quickly understand why she treats the house the way she does and why she responds to all these traumatic events the way that she does. And so I don't know that I agree with calling it campy. I think it's really sad. It's really sad. So I'm not having like a fun, fresh, good time. I'm having a stressed, anxious, worried time, which is fine. It's horror. I don't know that it should be. It shouldn't be fun. But I like the writing. I really like Margaret. I just hate Catherine so much, and it's kind of ruining the book for me, unfortunately. But I want to see it through, and I definitely want to see how it ends. I want to see like what they do about the big bad in this book, and yeah, I'm super invested. So the goal, do we think I can finish this today? According to Libro, I have 2 hours and 25 minutes left if I listen to it at 1.8 times speed, which has been a very comfortable speed to listen to this book. It's not too fast. Oh, I don't know if I can finish that today. But let's just pie in the sky say that the goal today is to finish this book, and if not by the end of today, early tomorrow morning. I'm gonna get ready for work, and we're just gonna get going with this day and see how much reading time I can sneak in. The lesson for today is always believe in yourself and you can get shit done. I finished September House a little while ago, and listen, the ending really saved that book for me. The whole climactic moment and the resolution, because I was leaning towards a 3, and now it's going to be like a 4.25. Maybe if 4.5, I have to think about it, but I ended up really liking how it played out. It for a while, it was going in a direction that made me really nervous, and I was prepared to hate read the end if it had continued in that direction, but it kind of swerved at the last minute, and I really liked it. I still stand by everything that I said earlier. I don't know that this book is really campy because, well, for me it wasn't. Maybe for another reader it would be. Maybe camp is subjective. I found a lot of it really sad because, like I said, there is ghosts of children who have been horrifically murdered, and you hear about those murders. There is a content warning that I feel like is a big spoiler because I heard the content warning beforehand, and I wish I hadn't, because I feel like it gave away a reveal. And yes, it's a reveal that you can kind of see coming like as you get into the book, but I really wish I hadn't known it. So I'm not going to say it, but I will say if you are a more sensitive reader, maybe go check out the content warnings for yourself. But I really think going into this book, not really knowing anything is the way to do it. I still can't really stand Catherine. She never really redeemed herself. I kind of hated her the whole time, both from like the mother perspective and the daughter perspective. Like, as a parent, I couldn't stand the way she talked to her mom. And then also, like, as a daughter, I also couldn't stand the way she talked to her mom. And yes, there are reasons for why she treats her mother the way she does, but I don't care. It drove me absolutely bananas. I did not like it. It was just not the vibe I was looking for. I really enjoyed the ending, like, a lot. And it's gross. So also, if bugs gross you out, don't read this. There's things with flies in this book that, ooh, I like to think I have a strong stomach, and I was wondering if this book would be the book that made me throw up while listening to it. So it was gross, but I really liked it. I don't know what to tell you. I am going to go into work, and then we have the rest of our busy day. So we'll meet up in the morning to chat about what I am going to focus on next. All right, I'm getting a later start on my reading day than I had thought I would, but I chose to sleep in a little bit this morning, and then once I did get up, I really just wanted to sit with my coffee and watch YouTube before the kids woke up and we had to get ready for school. So that's what I did, and it was lovely. And I went to the gym after I dropped my youngest off at school, and of course I didn't listen to any of my audiobooks because I was listening to the episode of the Locked Tomb podcast that I need to finish before I can start on the next set of chapters. And I still have like 40 minutes left. The episode is so long. It's okay. That's I have to remind myself, hair is not the priority. And then I came home and I turned on productivity sprints on YouTube, and I used the first chunk to edit my January wrap-up video that's going to be going up on Sunday. And I'm not done editing, but the first chunk is over, so I'm going to make breakfast, and then I'll take a break from editing and read instead, but I can talk to you while I make my breakfast. I'm going to do sourdough toast and poached eggs because I haven't had that in a really long time. And this is second breakfast because it's almost 10:15. It's 10:15. This is not my first breakfast. I had something this morning, but it wasn't my usual. It was pretty light because I knew I was going to go to the gym. So now we're having second breakfast. Let's talk about where I am now since I finished September House yesterday. I did make some progress on Dolls of Our Lives, Why We Can't Quit American Girl yesterday. These chapters are so stinking long. So I'm listening to the audiobook for this as well. I started chapter 2 yesterday, and I listened to an hour of that audiobook, and that's only maybe half of this chapter. I still think I have another hour to go before I get to chapter 3. They're just so long, maybe even longer than that, and they are broken up into sections, but it's just such long chapters. However, I don't know that there has ever been a nonfiction book that is more specifically targeted to me as this book is. Because Mary Mahoney and Allison Horrocks are roughly the same age I am. I think they're maybe a year or two younger, but their introduction to American Girl is very similar to my introduction of American Girl. And I think they found or were introduced to American Girl around the same age I was introduced to American Girl, so it just, a lot of it aligns. But I had no knowledge of the company or the founder or why American Girl was started. So right now I'm really into the history of the company. Like, that's the section that I'm in. And I think that behind the scenes info is really interesting. And it's funny to hear them talk about just the early critiques and criticisms of the company, which were very valid, and the parts of history that are acknowledged but also very much glossed over. Anyways, I'm really enjoying it. I'm also in the middle of listening to the first episode of their podcast because they started a podcast in, I think, 2019. And this book just came out end-ish of last year, I think. I'm not totally sure. It's really interesting. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's like, again, I don't think there's ever been a nonfiction book that has been more obviously targeted to me as this one. I did get the first Felicity book from the library and read it the other day, and I haven't read an American Girl book since I outgrew American Girl, but Felicity was one of my favorites growing up. I mean, was my favorite American Girl growing up. I loved her books. I didn't have an American Girl, but I love to look through the catalog, and Felicity's, if I had been able to have an American Girl, I probably would have picked Felicity. I was so sad when she was retired, even though I had like well outgrown American Girl doll having age. But then in rereading that first book, Felicity is kind of horrible. And now I don't know, I don't think it says anything great about the type of child that I was that Felicity was my favorite, because she's kind of the worst in that first book. That doesn't feel like a great look for me. So I'm hoping to finish chapter 2 today, even though it seems like it's a million pages long. And then the fiction book that I'm on is Rosemary and Rue by Shauna McGuire. This is book 1 in the October Day series, and this is like a paranormal detective mystery series, I think. Our main character is October Day. She goes by Toby, and she is a changeling. And she's a changeling who is kind of ostracized from the fairy community, such as it is, and a fairy who is like higher up in the social hierarchy is murdered, and before that fairy dies, she tasks Toby with finding who killed her. So we have like an amateur detective, an amateur sleuth, which I always really love that trope. I don't want to read a murder mystery with like actual police solving the murder. I want somebody who doesn't know what they're doing solving it. I find that much more interesting. I'm not liking it as much as I have liked Shauna McGuire in the past. And I know this is definitely an older book, though by far I don't think it was her debut. But I mean, what do I know? When was this published? So this was published in 2009. So it is definitely on the older end, and it's a different tone than I've read from Shauna McGuire in the past. Like, it doesn't really feel like her writing, but then there's also parts of this that I've read so far in her talking about the Fae where I can see how she got from this to Wayward Children. Like, those steps make sense, even just with the little bit I've read of this so far. So I think once my second breakfast is ready, I'm going to read a little bit more of Dolls of Our Lives. I'm actually probably going to listen to it while I eat. And then, depending on how long that takes, I'll probably go back and finish editing my video and then maybe switch over to this. I'm trying to decide how much of a sloth day I want to have and how much of a productive day I want to have, because, you know, there's always chores to do. But I'm also way behind on YouTube videos, like on watching YouTube videos. I feel like all the content creators I watch are putting out hour-long videos, which is great, except that it takes me so long to watch them because I just don't have that kind of concentrated time. And so I'm definitely watching them all in fits and starts. But I feel like there's also been so much Brandon Sanderson content lately, and I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, but I am so sick of hearing about Brandon Sanderson at this point that it feels a little bit like how it did when Fourth Wing came out, and it felt like for a while that was all anybody was talking about, and right now it feels like all anybody is talking about is Brandon Sanderson, and I feel like I may need to find fantasy booktubers who don't read Sanderson. So if you know of any and you have some recommendations, let me know, because I do want to hear about fantasy books, but I'm just not interested in Sanderson, and the saturation is so thick right now. Anyways, that's a side tangent. Okay, so I'm gonna make my breakfast, I'm gonna eat, and hopefully I will make some decent progress and then be able to give you all an update. All right, I have to leave to go fix that door, get Edie from school shortly, but I'll have a little bit of an update. I did read one more chapter in Dolls of Our Lives. Those chapters are so long. So I'm on chapter 4, I'm 50% of the way through the book. So interesting. I like it so much. It's so nerdy. And then I've gotten one more chapter into Rosemary and Rue. I don't know what it is about this book, but I am really struggling to pick it up. And once I pick it up, I struggle to stay in it. But like, while I'm reading the chapter, it's fine. Like, I'm enjoying it. I think the world building is really cool, but I don't feel compelled to pick it up. I could put it down and walk away, and I think I would be perfectly fine with that, which is not what I always want for my books, but it's also Sean and McGuire. I don't DNF Sean and McGuire, so I don't really know what to do. If I keep plugging away, if I DNF, I've just had this on my shelf for like 4 years now. Feels wrong to DNF. Anyways, I'll keep going through the weekend. We'll see where I am at the end of Sunday. I'm going to listen to the Locked Room pod on my way to pick up E. So then that way I can listen to more of Harrow or read more of Harrow tomorrow. But yeah, I just don't. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just not that invested. My husband and my kids are playing Zelda. So if you can hear that, that's what that is. All right. I went to work today. It's great. Went to the gym. Almost killed me. I'm making pretzel rolls and I'm not a baker, so thoughts and prayers for me, please. I've made a decision though. I'm on page 208 of Rosemary and Rue. I don't even know what percentage that is. Let me look. I don't know why I think seeing the percentage will make a difference. Maybe it'll help my brain solidify. Oh my God. 57% of the way through. Look, I'm going to call it. And this makes me so sad, but I'm going to DNF. I am so bored. I'm so bored. And I just can't. And I was saying last night, I never feel compelled to pick it up. When I'm reading it, I'm super distracted and I'm not immersed in this story, you know, because sometimes I'll read books, and I think everyone has probably had this experience where you have a book and you're not compelled to pick it up, but then when you do pick it up, you have a good time. I'm not even having a good time. I'm just bored. Am I still going to count it on my Reddit fantasy bingo board? Yes, I am, but it's okay because I only do Reddit fantasy bingo board for me. I'm not submitting it or anything. So I'm just, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to move on with my life, and I'm going to go finish the 2 chapters, chapter and a half I have for my Harrow the 9th. And then I'll be able to listen to the next podcast episode. But can I just say, let me grab the book. I can't remember if I said this already for this video, so if this is me saying again, so sorry. This is my 3rd time reading this book. And this is the first time that I have clocked how funny this book is. I'm laughing out loud while reading this book. And I never would have told you this book was funny beforehand, because my first time reading it, I was just so mad about what Tamsin Muir had done to my favorite character. I was so mad and I was so confused, and I just wanted her to put everything back the way it was before. And then the second time I read it, I wasn't mad anymore because now I understood, you know. But I was so confused about what was happening and who was who and what the sequence of events were and what the heck was going on and what Harrow was doing. And I still not mad, but really missing certain characters and sad that we're never going to get those characters back the way they were in book 1. I'm trying to be super vague, so if you haven't read this series, I'm not spoiling anything for you. And now, I mean, I'm still confused sometimes. I still don't know if the things that I'm confused about are just confusing and if we're going to get answers to them eventually, or if it's just doesn't matter. So it's still a little bit confused, but I'm finally able to relax this time and just enjoy what's going on. And I love how petty Ianthe and Mercy Morn are. Like, it just, every time they say something, I end up laughing because they're just so freaking petty, and I love it so much. This is such a good time. I love rereading this series. I've never reread, I mean, other than like as a kid, I've never reread a series or books as much as I have reread Gideon and Harrow the 9th. Like, The Locked Tomb is my every January I reread a book from the series, and it brings me so much joy and I love it so much, and I always find something new that I either didn't notice the first time around. It's a great time. I'm loving it. If you like this series, I mean, I always highly recommend rereading it because you just get a new appreciation and a new awareness for this book, for any of these books, every single time. And it makes me really excited to reread Nona because I haven't done that yet. I finished Dolls of Our Lives by Mary Mahoney and Allison Horrocks, and I really enjoyed this the whole way through. This was such an interesting deep dive into the history of American Girl, why it was started, the founder, its trajectory over the years, even after it was purchased by Mattel, which I still think is wild that a company that was founded to be an alternative to Barbie was then bought by the company that makes Barbie. I will say though, this is a super niche read. I think you will only enjoy this if you were born between maybe 1982 and 1986, maybe 88, and then were obsessed with American Girl in the 90s. It's super niche. There's a lot of 90s references. There's a lot of all the cultural touchstones are for the 90s, because then you also get Mary and Allison's experiences with American Girl, and also because they have a podcast that's been going on for a number of years, their listeners' relationship to American Girl, where American Girl succeeded, where it really dropped the ball in terms of the way they approach representation. There's a part towards the end where they've talked about how they've heard from Asian American listeners who feel like American Girl who've really dropped the ball with Asian and Pacific Islander representation. They have not done a good job with that in the past. There's hope that it's going to get better, but we can always hope. I'm going to give it a 4.25 because it really was the perfect book for me. Like I am the target demographic for this kind of book, but I don't know that there's necessarily universal appeal with this book. I don't know if somebody born in the mid-90s or in this century would find this book enjoyable or relatable, or I just don't know, because I don't know that American Girl has the same hold on adolescent girls now as it did in the 90s. Please talk to me about your American Girl experience, because this was a ride for me to go on. I'm so happy I read this. It was great. I finished Harrow last night, and for some reason I had initially rated this a 4.5. I bumped it up to a 5. I think this is a perfect book. It feels bold, but I don't know. There's nothing I would change about it. And did it take me 3 readings to get to a 5-star for this book? Yes, it did. I don't even know how to describe the things this book does to my brain, this series does to my brain. It makes me so happy. I love all these characters. Even the characters I hate, I still kind of love. And it's just such a ride. And I love that it's a series that really is meant to be reread. Not that you have to reread it, but I think if you like it, you're always going to get something new out of this series when you reread it. At least with Gideon and Harrow. I haven't reread Nona yet, so I don't know if it continues through with Nona, but I just love these characters, and I love this world, and I love Tamsin Muir's writing, and I'm just a Gideon fangirl all the way through. It's so good. I can't give you a synopsis because it just doesn't work for this series. I will say, if you've read Gideon and you haven't picked up Harrow yet and are intimidated because everybody says how confusing it is, well, you'll be in good company because we've all been there. But my advice that I give to my in real life friends who are picking up this book for the first time is to forget what happened in Gideon. Because if you go into this book trying to connect what's happening to what happened in Gideon, it's going to make you batty. So you just have to forget what happened in Gideon and know that Tamsin Muir is going to get you there. It is confusing for a good chunk of the book, but then Tamsin Muir drops the key of information that you need to make it all make sense, and then it does. And then she works backward and explains what's been happening. So I think the payoff is totally worth it, even if you're gonna spend about 300 pages really confused and maybe a little angry at Tamsin for what she's done to you. I absolutely love the series so much. And now that I've finished Harrow, that means we're gonna wrap up the vlog. So I would say this is a pretty solid, not even a whole week of reading. And granted, everything was in progress because, you know, the point was to finish up the books that I was still reading at the end of January, and it's now February 6th, so maybe not as quick as I would have liked it to be, but that's okay. I did have my one DNF, which I will be unhauling at some point, but everything else, I mean, what was this? 4.25, 4.25, 5-star. I'm not mad about it. So, if you've made it to this end of this video, thank you so much for watching and spending your time with me. I really appreciate it. If you would like to leave a comment but don't know what to say, let's do some sort of bone, skull, skeleton emoji, and I will talk to you all in the next one.